Would you co-sign on a mortgage even if you knew it was a bad idea?
Well, let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Jenny.
I'm Dan.
And today we're going to talk about co-signing mortgages. What is it and is it a good idea? Dan, tell me, how long have you been in the mortgage industry?
I started in the mortgage industry back in 2008, right after the crash, the fall. It was at the very bottom. Every year has been better than the last, so I'm real grateful that I got to start in at such a hard time.
Awesome. So you've seen a lot in the mortgage industry.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to talk to you about co-signing today because it's something that I don't know a lot about. So I'm hoping you can educate me.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I don't know a lot about co-signing mortgages, and I think that maybe some people think it's the only way that they're going to be able to get in a home or afford a home. So we're going to talk a little bit about what co-signing means for both parties, and then we're going to talk about some situations that you might find yourself in with co-signing. So could you tell me just very basically, what does co-signing on a mortgage mean for both parties? What are they getting themselves into?
Well, to be honest with you, co-signing for the person who's receiving the asset is not necessarily a bad deal, but it's a really bad deal for the one who's the co-signer, who's signing their name on the dotted line, but not actually receiving the asset like a home or a car, right? And it's a really bad deal for the co-signer because not only do they not get the asset, but they're on the hook, they're liable for that asset just as if they were receiving it themselves. So that's the first reason why I would say never co-sign on a loan. Second reason is because also it could affect your personal buying power in the future should you have to borrow money, in the future for yourself. So let's say you're helping your sister buy a home and you're co-signing on the mortgage for her. Well, the problem is now when you apply for your own home loan to purchase your own home in the future, that liability is going to be held against you on what the underwriter calls the debt to income ratio. And therefore, that's going to sap your buying power and ability to purchase your own home, unless you're like a really high income earner. And so just as a general rule of thumb, you don't want to be responsible for another person unless you're married to them. That in that situation, co-signing is perfectly acceptable. But unless you're going to be living with them in the home or you're going to be co-owning that car with them, you don't want to co-sign on a loan.
So as far as co-signing goes, it basically looks like you own the home if you're the co-signer, but you don't own the home, but it's being counted against you in terms of your credit score and in terms of it appears that you own that asset even though you don't.
Yes,
Okay.
Very true. And in fact, if the person who's living in the home doesn't pay their mortgage, even though you just co-signed on the loan and you're not living there, you're not responsible for the home, you are on paper. And that's going to destroy your credit score too if they stop paying.
Okay. So if you are in a situation, I know myself and a lot of my friends were getting to the point where maybe our parents are aging and they might be on limited income, and it might be really tempting for them or another family member to help that person out by co-signing on a mortgage. What advice would you give to that person before they make a decision? What would you ask that they think about before they take that co-signing step?
Yeah, so I can definitely resonate with this experience because I have aging parents too who had some financial difficulties later in their life, and we had to get them into a different home. Co-signing on their mortgage was off the table, but we were able to do other things like help them budget, help them think through their finances, make sure that they were receiving all the income that they were entitled to, whether it was Social Security or their pensions, so on and so forth. And make sure that they think through their finances so they can be self-sufficient until the point where they can no longer be self-sufficient. And then as a child of theirs, I would move them probably into our house. But co-signing on the home for them would be an absolutely non-negotiable for me.
Gotcha. So look at all of the other avenues for income, make sure they're set up financially before you even talk about co-signing. There's a lot of things you can do to make sure they get set up in a home or possibly a rental apartment where they don't have that mortgage before you even talk about co-signing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think rent sometimes gets a bad name because some people feel that like you're just throwing your money away by paying your landlord every month and you're not building any kind of equity. And I guess there's a part of that could be seen as true. You're not gaining any equity in that particular property. However, you're also not responsible for catastrophes like if something breaks in that house. You have somebody to call when the toilet backs up, and you have a lot less responsibilities as a renter as you do as a homeowner. And therefore, that is actually an optimal situation for a certain percentage of the population. So count the cost. Sometimes home ownership is a lot more expensive than just renting, and it's also a lot more stressful. And so for some people, that is the better avenue.
Renting, got it. And when we're talking about family members, I know that a lot of times it's difficult to have these money conversations when you're saying, make the decision based off of numbers, run the numbers, does it make sense? But then when you bring in that personal relationship, maybe that it's your child or it's your parent or your brother or sister, how do you counsel people that are in that situation of, I know this doesn't make sense on paper, but I want to do it anyway because I have a personal need to help this person, a personal relationship with them?
Yeah, you really have to fight that temptation to make that emotional decision. When it comes to your finances, the money that's in your bank account doesn't care about your personal relationships. And so you have to remove yourself and just look at it objectively as a third-party person. So I sometimes think of it this way, as I will look at my financial situation as if I'm having an out-of-body experience, where I'm just thinking, okay, how would I counsel someone else who is in my position right now? And that's generally a better approach to making a good, sound financial decision, as opposed to thinking, oh, I'm gonna hurt this person's feelings, or I'm their only hope to getting into a home if I don't co-sign this loan, or something like that. Because what that does is it makes them ultra dependent upon you. You want to help people become self-sufficient. And if you want to best help them, it's best to help them get on their feet on their own, as opposed to being ultra dependent upon you.
Gotcha. And with a co-signing relationship, again, if something were to happen to them, you are responsible for that payment, and that 100%. Can then count against you. If that goes into foreclosure, then it's like you are having a foreclosure. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And that puts you in a bad situation, because now you're in a situation where you have to make a decision. Okay, do I bail this person out again? I've already co-signed for them, but I don't want a foreclosure on my record. So do I have to come in and now start paying the mortgage on top of whatever I'm paying, rent or mortgage for my own living situation, because you don't want that big ding on your credit, because that will lock you out of buying another house for a very long time, and it'll just destroy your score. And so that puts you in just a cycle of having to bail someone out. And you don't want to put yourself in that cycle. And it's probably not good for them either, even though in the moment it feels good to them because they're getting the satisfaction of owning that home or having that car. But in the long run, that's just a not healthy relationship to have.
Would you recommend people, and maybe you're finding yourself in that situation, would you recommend they talk to an impartial third party, maybe someone at their local financial institution or a mortgage loan officer, to kind of talk both parties through the pros and cons of their situation?
Yes, absolutely. Especially if you feel that you know what the right decision is in the situation, but you want them to hear it from somebody else. I think that's a great approach. Sometimes I do this with my kids. I'm ahead of them in life experience. I know a lot more than them. But they don't want to hear it from dad. Whether it's a multitude of issues that teens go through, if I say it to them, it's just dad being dad. But if their favorite social media influencer says it, or I can find somebody that they respect and they say it, I can show them a video of them saying it, then it's a whole different perspective. And it's like the receptors in their brains light up and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I should take that guy's advice. So I think an objective third party is often the best solution.
So co-signing in general, not a great idea. And if you're feeling pressured by a family member or someone close to you to get in that situation, it's always best to make that financial decision based on the numbers on the paper and make the best financial situation to you. And there might be a lot of other options than co-signing, including renting, that might actually be best for your financial situation. What did you think about this episode? Do you have any experience with co-signing alone? Make sure to comment below and let us know. Like and subscribe to see more financial tips.